They kept smiling like nothing was wrong. I remember holding the ticket, thinking this had to be some kind of surprise I didn't understand yet. But then my mom stepped back, my dad looked away, and no one said happy birthday anymore. That's when it hit me, this wasn't a gift. This was goodbye. I stood there frozen while people rushed past me. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe properly. I wanted to call out, to ask them why, but my voice just wouldn't come out. They didn't even turn around. Not once. When the plane landed, everything felt unfamiliar. I had no plan, no one waiting for me, and barely enough money to get through a few days. I spent the first night sitting in a hard chair, staring at the floor, wondering what I had done to deserve this. The next morning, I almost gave up. But something inside me refused to break completely. I stepped outside, not knowing where I was going, just knowing I couldn't stay stuck. That's when I met Aloan. She didn't ask too many questions, just offered a quiet kind of help that felt real. For the first time since everything fell apart, I felt a small sense of safety. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, I started building something for myself. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen fast, but I began to see things clearly. What they did wasn't because I was worthless. It was because they didn't want me to know the truth. And once I understood that, I stopped feeling lost. I started feeling ready. That morning felt strange from the start. My parents were being overly nice in a way that didn't feel natural. My mom kept smiling too much, and my dad barely spoke, just nodding along like he was distracted. Even the way they looked at each other felt planned, like they were hiding something. They told me to get ready because they had a special plan for my birthday. No details, just trust us. I tried to believe it. I really did. For once, I thought maybe they wanted to make things right between us. The car ride was quiet. Not the peaceful kind, more like the kind where everyone is thinking something but no one says it out loud. I kept glancing at them, waiting for a hint, a joke, anything that would make this feel normal. But nothing came. Chris was there too, sitting in the back with me. He didn't say a word the whole time. Usually, he would make some sarcastic comment or complain about something, but that day he just stared out the window. When I looked at him, he quickly looked away. That bothered me more than anything else. When we pulled up to the airport, my stomach dropped a little. I asked where we were going, trying to sound excited, but my voice didn't match the feeling in my chest. My mom just said, "You'll see," and handed me my bag. Everything felt too controlled, too quiet. It was like I was part of something already decided, and I was the only one who didn't know the truth yet. At the gate, everything became real in a way I wasn't ready for. My dad placed the ticket in my hand without meeting my eyes. I looked down and noticed something odd, there was no return date. Just one flight, one destination I had never heard of before. I asked what was going on, trying to keep my voice steady. My mom sighed like I had asked something annoying. She didn't smile anymore. Her face had turned flat, almost distant. "We've done enough," she said quietly. "It's time for you to figure things out on your own." For a second, I thought she was joking. I even let out a small laugh, waiting for one of them to correct it. But no one did. My dad finally looked at me, and there was no warmth in his eyes. Just impatience. "You're not a kid anymore," he added. "We're done carrying you." Those words hit harder than anything else. I felt like the ground shifted under me. I tried to speak, to ask what I had done wrong, but my throat tightened. Nothing came out except a weak breath. People were walking past us, announcements echoing overhead, but everything around me felt distant. Like I was standing in a place that didn't belong to me anymore. I looked at them one last time, hoping for something, any sign that this wasn't final. But they had already stepped back. My mom adjusted her bag, my dad checked his watch. It was like I was just another task they had finished. Then they turned and walked away. No goodbye. No hesitation. Not even a glance back. I stood there, holding that ticket, realizing I had just been left behind in the middle of everything. The place I arrived in felt empty the moment I stepped out. It was quiet in a way that made everything seem slower, like time didn't move the same here. I followed the small crowd through the terminal, not really knowing where to go next. No one was waiting for me. No familiar face, no plan, nothing. I checked my pocket again and again, counting what little money I had like it might somehow increase. It didn't. Every number felt smaller than the last. I couldn't afford a hotel, not even for one night. The reality of that settled in fast. As the hours passed, the building grew quieter. People left, lights dimmed, and the noise faded into a soft hum. I found a corner with a chair and sat there, holding my bag close like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. I tried to make sense of everything. My mind kept going in circles, searching for answers that didn't come. I replayed moments from home, small memories, wondering if I had missed signs or said something that led to this. Nothing felt clear. Just confusion mixed with a deep, heavy feeling I couldn't shake. At some point, I closed my eyes, but sleep didn't come easily. Every sound made me look up. Every shadow felt unfamiliar. I wasn't scared in a loud way, it was quieter than that. More like a constant tension that wouldn't leave. When morning finally came, the light through the windows felt different. Not warm, not hopeful, just there. I stood up slowly, my body stiff, my thoughts still unsettled. I didn't have answers, but I knew one thing for sure. No one was coming back for me. I stayed near the exit, unsure where to go next. People came and went, but I kept my distance, watching without really seeing. My head felt heavy from lack of sleep, and my thoughts moved slowly, like everything inside me was tired. That's when I noticed her. She had been sitting a few seats away for a while, reading something quietly. I didn't pay much attention at first, but after some time, I realized she kept glancing in my direction. Not in a rude way, more like she was trying to understand something. I looked away, not wanting to invite questions. The last thing I needed was someone asking about my situation. I didn't even know how to explain it myself. After a few minutes, she stood up and walked over. Her steps were calm, not rushed. She stopped at a respectful distance and spoke in a soft voice, asking if I was all right. I nodded quickly, even though it wasn't true. She didn't push. Instead, she offered something simple, a place to rest for a while, somewhere quieter than this. I hesitated. Everything in me said to be careful, not to trust so easily. But I also knew I couldn't stay where I was forever. I studied her face, looking for anything that felt wrong, but there was nothing. Just a calm expression and patience. No pressure, no judgment. After a long pause, I agreed, though my voice came out low and unsure. I picked up my bag, still unsure if I was making the right choice, but knowing I didn't have many options left. As I followed her out, I felt a small shift inside me. Not relief exactly, but something close. For the first time since everything fell apart, I wasn't completely alone. Her place was quiet and simple, filled with old furniture and neatly stacked books. Nothing felt rushed there. I kept to myself at first, unsure how long I would be allowed to stay or what she expected from me. She didn't ask for anything in return, which made me even more cautious. One evening, while we were having tea, she looked at me a little differently, like she had finally decided to say something she had been holding back. She asked me my full name again, slowly this time. When I told her, she paused for a moment, then nodded to herself. She walked to a drawer and pulled out a small, worn photo. When she placed it on the table, my heart skipped. The woman in the picture looked familiar in a way I couldn't explain. Not someone I had met, but someone I should have known. Aloan told me the name, and it matched something buried deep in my memory. A name I had heard only once as a child, quickly brushed aside when I asked about it. My parents had acted like it meant nothing. But it clearly meant something to her. She spoke carefully, choosing her words, explaining that she had known this woman many years ago. There was history there, something important. I listened, trying to piece things together, feeling like I had just stepped into a story that started long before me. The more she shared, the more things stopped making sense about my past. Small details, things I had ignored, started to feel different now. Like there had always been something hidden, just out of reach. I didn't fully understand it yet, but one thing became clear. There was more to my story than what I had been told. The days started to take shape. I followed a simple routine that kept my mind busy and my thoughts steady. In the mornings, I helped organize files and sort papers. At first, it felt small, almost pointless, but it gave me something solid to hold on to. Eloane guided me without making it obvious. She showed me how to read documents carefully, how to notice details most people would skip. I began to understand the language in those papers, the meaning behind signatures and dates. It wasn't easy, but I kept going. In the afternoons, I spent time reading. Old records, letters, and notes that didn't seem important at first slowly started to connect. Names repeated. Patterns appeared. I began to see that nothing in my past was as simple as I had believed. I changed too. I spoke more clearly, thought before reacting, and stopped letting fear control every step. The girl who had stood lost and unsure was fading. In her place, someone more aware was growing. One evening, while going through a set of documents, I noticed something that didn't fit. A name tied to mine in a way that had never been explained. The more I looked, the clearer it became. There were choices made behind my back, decisions that shaped my life without me ever knowing. It wasn't random. It wasn't careless. Everything that happened to me had a reason behind it. That realization didn't break me like before. Instead, it settled in quietly, giving me focus. I didn't rush to react. I kept reading, kept learning, letting the truth build piece by piece. For the first time, I wasn't just trying to survive. I was starting to understand. It happened on a quiet afternoon while I was reviewing a stack of older files. At first, nothing seemed unusual, just more records, more names, more dates. But then I noticed something that made me stop. My name appeared again, but this time it was connected to something much bigger. Not just a mention or a detail, something official. I read the page once, then again, slower. My hands felt unsteady as the meaning started to sink in. I didn't say anything right away. I kept going, pulling more documents, checking every detail carefully. Each paper added another piece, and together they formed something I couldn't ignore anymore. There were records of property, agreements, and signatures that went back years. Everything pointed in one direction. None of it had ever been shared with me. I sat there for a long time, staring at the papers spread out in front of me. It wasn't just about what I found, it was about what had been kept from me all this time. The silence around it, the way it had been handled, felt deliberate. Slowly, things began to line up with what had happened before. Decisions that once seemed confusing now carried a different meaning. It wasn't just distance or cold behavior. It was control. I felt a mix of emotions I couldn't fully sort out. Shock, anger, disbelief, they all came at once, but none of them took over. Instead, there was a quiet understanding building inside me. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't something that just happened along the way. There was a clear reason behind every step that led me here. And now, I finally knew enough to see it. I didn't rush into anything after learning the truth. A part of me wanted to go back and demand answers right away, but I held that back. Acting on emotion wouldn't fix anything. I needed to be careful, not loud. So I focused on preparation. Every day, I spent time going through records, double-checking details, and making sure I understood everything clearly. I asked questions when needed, but I also learned to find answers on my own. The more I worked, the more confident I became. I started keeping copies of important papers, organizing them in a way that made sense. Dates, names, connections, everything had to be clear. There was no room for mistakes. If I was going to face them, I had to be ready for every response they might have. At the same time, I worked on myself. I learned how to stay calm even when my thoughts got heavy. I practiced speaking without letting my voice shake. I reminded myself that I didn't need their approval anymore. Days turned into weeks, and I could feel the difference. I wasn't reacting the way I used to. I wasn't second-guessing every step. There was a steady focus guiding me now. I also made a plan. Not something rushed, but something built with care. I thought through each move, each possible outcome. I knew this wouldn't be easy, and I didn't expect it to be. But I was no longer afraid of what came next. This wasn't about proving something to them. It was about standing on my own and taking back what had been kept from me. And when the time came, I wouldn't hesitate. It had been months since everything changed. I didn't rush back. I waited until I knew exactly who I was and what I was walking into. By the time I made the decision, I wasn't the same person who had been left behind. I dressed simply that day, nothing dramatic, nothing that would give away how much had changed. The drive felt longer than I remembered, but I stayed calm the entire way. No hesitation, no second thoughts. When I reached the house, I didn't call ahead or announce myself. I just walked up to the door and knocked. It took a moment, but when it opened, I saw the reaction immediately. Surprise. Confusion. They weren't expecting me. My mother froze for a second, like she wasn't sure if I was real. My father stepped closer, studying me as if trying to figure out what had changed. I didn't speak right away. I let the silence sit there. The same silence they had once left me in. Inside, everything looked familiar, but it felt different now. I wasn't the same girl standing in that space anymore. I could feel it in the way I carried myself, in the way I didn't lower my eyes. They tried to recover quickly, asking questions, pretending everything was normal. But I could see the discomfort behind their words. They weren't in control of the moment. I simply looked at them and waited. Not in anger, not in fear, just steady, like I had already decided what needed to happen next. For the first time, I wasn't there to be dismissed. I was there because I chose to be. I placed the folder on the table without rushing. No drama, no raised voice. Just facts. My parents looked at it, unsure at first, thinking maybe it was nothing serious. But that changed the moment they started reading. Their expressions shifted slowly. First confusion, then discomfort. My mother tried to speak, but her words didn't come out clearly. My father leaned forward, scanning the pages faster, like he was looking for a mistake that wasn't there. I stayed quiet and let them go through everything. There were property records, signed papers, and clear proof of decisions made without my knowledge. I didn't need to explain much. The documents spoke for themselves. My mother finally broke the silence, saying it wasn't what it looked like, that they were trying to protect me. Her voice sounded forced, like she was trying to convince herself more than me. My father added that I didn't understand the full situation back then. But I did now. I told them I understood more than they thought. Not loudly, not with anger, just clearly. Every word I said was calm, but firm. I didn't raise my voice, and I didn't need to. The room felt different after that. The control they once had wasn't there anymore. They tried to argue, but their explanations didn't connect the way they used to. Everything sounded weak compared to what was in front of them. I watched them struggle to hold their ground. For the first time, they didn't have an answer ready. The roles had changed, and they knew it. I didn't stay long after that. There was nothing left to prove in that moment. I didn't stay to argue or listen to more excuses. Everything I needed was already said, and nothing they could add would change it. I turned away first, not out of anger, but because there was no reason to remain there any longer. As I stepped outside, the air felt different. Lighter somehow. For a long time, I had carried confusion, pain, and questions that never got real answers. Now, it felt like those things were finally behind me. I didn't look back at the house. Not once. There was a time when that place felt like my whole world, but not anymore. It was just a part of my past now, not my future. What I gained wasn't loud or dramatic. It didn't need to be. I had clarity. I had proof of the truth I once doubted. And more than anything, I had control over my own life again. There was no desire to destroy anything. That version of revenge never interested me. What mattered was moving forward without being held back by what others decided for me. I built something new from everything that was taken away. Piece by piece, I shaped a life that didn't depend on approval or permission. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Over time, I realized something important. Winning wasn't about watching others fall. It was about standing so firmly in your own path that nothing from the past could pull you back. They thought they had left me with nothing. But they didn't see what I became after that. And in the end, that was enough. Do you think I did the right thing by walking away from them, or should I have given them another chance? I really want to know your thoughts, so leave a comment. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe and turn on notifications.